Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Tea Break here on the ABCFC podcast. And I think obviously it's about right that, with the Ashes having ended, over a week ago now, I think we're a bit late for this, but better late than never, eh? Being a football and cricket channel, maybe we should do some content. I mean, we were going to do some more Saints stuff for you with Ben, but then I realised maybe we should actually do some cricket content and me as an Englishman not try to run away from the fact that we've lost another Ashes series over here in Australia. But hey, we won one test, as those of you who followed our shorts over that kind of time period would know, when I posted so jubilantly about it, even though we ended up still going down 4-1. But whatever, we won a test in Australia. Joe Root scored 200s. It's better than what it has been over the last decade here. That's at least something. But anyway, we are going to do an Ashes review, obviously. It only makes sense. Apologies that we only ended up getting to the one watch along, but we do, hopefully try and plan to do more, in the near future, what with the T20 World Cup on the horizon, and stuff like that. And also with me and my partner soon to move into our own place and not being a share house and having, noise rules as strict as what we have here. We could potentially do watch-alongs for Bundesliga games then. Potentially, right? I mean, I'll bring you in on that note, Ben.
Well, I'll just start and g'day to everyone out there. The test that you guys won was actually happened to be the test that I was actually at for the second and final day. So I'm going to take a little bit of partial credit into that. So
yeah,
you're welcome and all of that. But look, a really, I guess, an interesting series on a few sort of notes. I mean, the series itself was sort of wrapped up reasonably quickly, and then we had the Noosa controversy with England, and I guess that sort of refreshed them a bit, and they won here in Melbourne. So, and I think in Sydney they showed a lot of fight. Obviously unlucky that they couldn't sort of get the back-to-back victory as well. But I think overall, there's some really good talking points in the series, and that'll be things that we'll talk about shortly in terms of best batsman, best bowler for the series. But certainly, I think plenty of highlights on both ends. But that Melbourne test for mine, having sitting in the stands and the MCC members on the second day was a pretty big highlight. A lot of English fans turning up, which I think was great for the city and great for the economy and the pubs and the bars and all of that. Clearly can't speak today, but we did that watch along for the Perth test and didn't go quite as long as you and I would have liked.
It's funny, right? The one game you went to in person was the second day of a 2-day test, and the one time we did the watch along was the second day of a 2-day test. It's ridiculous how in a 5-match test series we've had 2 of them that have only gone to the length of 2 days. And furthermore, remember how ridiculous it was, of course, everyone does that 19 wickets fell on day 1 at the Optus. Funny that 20 wickets fell on day 1 at the MCG. So that happened twice in the same series. It's just been ridiculous. A mental series.
Just ridiculous.
Correctly predicted by a lot of people that there were going to be no draws in this, finishing 4-1. Of course, there was a result in all 5 tests. There was never, ever going to be any draws in this. Let's just get one thing straight. The closest, 2 of the tests went to 5 days. The closest it ever got to, 3 of them actually, because I think the Gabba went to 5 days as well, didn't it? But I think even though they went to 5 days at the Gabba and at Adelaide Oval and then at the SCG, it wasn't in any point where it was going to be anywhere close to a draw. So that's England for you these days.
Yeah, most certainly, and I remember the sort of the talk before that Optus test in terms of Bazball would be shining through and all of that, and it was like we were saying the other day, we had the watch along with all intentions of going through the full day, and I think by the end of it we ended up discussing sort of all other topics, bar cricket and some quiz stuff and whatnot, and that just sort of shows the craziness of that particular day and how it ended. But also great. I think as a cricket purist myself, it was great that we did have a couple of days where we did get to 5 days amongst all the craziness of two-day finishes.
It's crazy.
It's just not cricket. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But look, I mean, it kind of just like, the manner of the series was as how it kind of just I guess, unfolded in itself. I mean, you're talking about, the craziness of the test, this Bazball like method as well that England, really go for. I know, like, obviously, famously, Brendan McCullum doesn't like it being referred to as Bazball, but I mean, it's the best way to describe it. We went out all guns blazing at Optus. But I mean, look, I think this series is summed up by England. Like, I'm not going to sound controversial here, I don't think, unless a couple of deluded Aussie fans who are watching this, maybe, I don't know. But I'm not going to sound controversial when I say I don't think this was Australia's best Ashes performance in a long shot. It really wasn't. Yes, there was some standout performances from Travis Head and Stark alike, but largely throughout the series, I felt that in many points in all of the games, England were just the masters of their own downfall. So many times, stupid shots being played, the wrong shots being played. Yeah, I get we want to be aggressive and stuff like that, but not reading into game situation enough. I mean, I thought at the SCG, typical England, too little, too late, right? I thought the SCG was the first time in terms of batting in the whole series where largely we actually, looked like we were being a little more sensible. I know, albeit with that stupid Jamie Smith dismissal of that rank bouncer from Marnus in the first innings of that test. But aside from that, it just overall, that test looked like we kind of got our act together with the batting. It's funny how that's too little too late, as in most cases with England's cricket team.
And I think that the fact just with that is, and I totally agree on that point in terms of, masters of their own downfall, some really dumb shots, and that's really what you can call just dumb cricket at times. Smith getting out to Marnus is a case in point in that. And, but I think the main talking point out of the end of the series, as you would have heard as well, was the selection of Jacob Bethel and how he was a real sort of shining light for you guys. But unfortunately, it was at the end of the series when there was only sort of really pride to play for, and could he have possibly been picked earlier in the series, and would that have maybe
Yeah, I mean,
a bit of a boost?
Yeah, but that's the thing, really. Like, a lot of England fans. I know it was obvious that we were going to go with Pope at the beginning of the series, and I thought in that first innings at Optus, he actually looked like he'd improved his technique. But then nothing happened after that. It was just back to the same old Ollie Pope. Uncertain shots, uncertainty with playing around the crease, poor foot movement at half the time, poor body position, leaning over, getting himself kind of falling forwards a lot of the time when balls are going in towards the pads, and him trying to dig it out and leaving himself in all sorts of bother. And I just think from an England perspective now, if we're really going to be adamant on this whole Jacob Bethel thing and he's the one for the future, now he's proven that, because, got a great ball. He got a great ball in the two tests he played. He got a great ball at the MCG first innings. He batted brilliantly for his 40 in our winning chase in the second innings. Again, pretty decent ball that got him out in the first innings of the SCG, and then that 150 odd that he got in the second innings was one of the best batting innings from any one of our batsmen this entire series. You could argue the Joe Root first innings at the SCG is up there as well, along with his 100 at the Gabba. I'll get on to Joe Root in a moment, but yeah, about on Bethel, as you were saying, this is, I think, the point where England, with New Zealand and Pakistan as the two series this summer in England, I think this is the point where, unless he's injured, which hopefully he isn't, because he is going to be playing a lot of cricket between now and then. Obviously, he's got the World Cup, which he's going to be a huge part of, you imagine, to come as well, and the IPL after that as well, which of course he's going to be involved in. But, with that English summer, this is the point where I think he's, in my opinion, he's kind of put his marker down and his stamp down on that number 3 spot. And I don't see any need for Ollie Pope to come back into the team, and I hope that the England Cricket Board kind of view it in the same way, because I don't see the point of them trying to go up with the Bethel situation, and then he plays so well in the 2 tests he comes into this series, and then they just drop him again for Ollie Pope to maybe get one big score every 8 to 10 innings he plays, and then look completely suspect in all the others as per usual. We got a big discussion on Crawley, but I think I'll leave that because it's kind of obvious that they're still going to stick with him. There's no clear hint of a replacement for him at this point, so it's more on the Pope Bethel situation, and it has to be Bethel going forwards, and I hope that the board can kind of see that, because that second innings, we can both agree, we can all agree, that 150 was such good
was
batting, the way he
superb.
played that
Yeah.
innings. You know,
Yep.
he one of the rare occurrences this series. In fact, even going back the last three series in Australia prior to this as well, one of those rare occasions where one of our batsmen just looks like they've got the hang of the bowlers and the conditions over here.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah. Well, I'm looking at his stats from that second innings, and he didn't hit a six in that entire knock. So 15 fours. That just sort of shows like a really measured sort of approach to the innings, and I thought it was really well. And even that 40 odd you said that he
I mean,
made in
like
that
you
chase
say,
to
one
Melbourne.
six 15 fours, like 158, I
No, sorry,
think
no,
it was,
no,
right?
no, no, yeah, no sixes,
No
154.
sixes, sorry, yeah.
No, 15 fours, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's 158 if I'm correct, right? Is what he made. Yeah,
154.
in that
Yeah.
knock as well. I mean, it wasn't like he was going slow. I still think his strike rate was up around 60 to 70 if I'm correct, right? 58. Okay, yeah.
58.11, yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't like a typical Basball strike rate, but you kind of need that calmness sometimes. And look, he still batted
Yeah.
at just over 50, and we made, you know, we got up towards 400 in that innings, and we still didn't do it relatively slow. So, you
No.
know, it's not like everyone has to come in and bat that slow, but the stability he showed in that innings is what's pleasing. It's what looked impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
one of the shining lights of this England team in this series. The other one, of course, is Mr. Joe Root himself. More records breaking. He's now got 41 Test centuries to his name. He's only got Kallis, Tendulkar, and I think that's it actually. I think he's only got Kallis and Tendulkar ahead of him now in the all-time century scoring rankings.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I thought certainly from his point of view, and I remember we did the Ashes preview before the series started, and the one thing we talked about was, would this be the summer that Joe Root would get his first Test 100 in Australia?
Well,
And
he did it.
and he
And he
eventually
saved
did it. So,
everyone from having to watch Haydos do a naked lap around the MCG. Saved you from
yeah.
having to see it as well, because you would have been at that.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe, for saving us all. But yeah, look, credit to him. There must have been a lot of pressure on him to actually, break that duck, and certainly did it in style, and not only once but twice. So in the series,
Yeah.
so credit to him. 160 in that first knock in Sydney, and just really.
138, I think it was, at the Gabba.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, but just a great knock and great performance, and that's sort of one way to sort of silence the critics. And the English are going to have a lot of questions to answer, I guess, now that they're back home. But Root, breaking.
Oh, look,
his
I mean,
straight
look,
duck is not one
if
of them.
it's hopefully it's going to continue like recent years, like he's always going to get a couple of centuries in an English summer as well. We just know it as England fans. Just sort of how good and consistent he is at home. It's just remarkable. I mean, obviously last summer he got 3 centuries in 3 consecutive games against India. So like, even though he might start the summer slow, there'll be a point where it'll click, and then he'll just like hit his form again. So like, 6 more Test matches in this English summer. You expect him to get at least 2 centuries, most likely 3, in those 6 games. So like, it's Joe Root, really. I mean, the big question now is, can he go on, and can he actually go past Sachin Tendulkar's record for runs? That's the big question. He's just over 2,000 or so behind him now at this point. Injuries, hopefully they're still good to him like they have been through most of his career. I mean, if that's the case, you imagine he's probably, unless he hits some drastically bad form, he's probably going to be part of this England setup for at least a good 4, possibly even 5 more years, right? I mean, look, it's no stranger that something. We had Jimmy Anderson playing in our team till he was 42. Usman Khawaja's just retired from Australia at the age of 38, 39. So, like, cricket's not the same as football. Players do tend to play quite odd. I think John Embry played Test cricket for England till he was like in his mid-40s potentially as well.
Yeah.
For a throwback name right there.
Yeah. And I think that's something coming out of the series that's going to be a real discussion point in terms of what from an Australian point of view anyway, what the next sort of lot of Test series. They are playing Bangladesh, I think, in Darwin later in the year, which is going to be a great series for them. But I guess how will that sort of lineup look for them? And I say that with Khawaja retiring, which I think was the best move, I guess, for the setup.
One thing I will say for
yeah.
Australia, if we switch gears to Australia for a bit, I still want to talk about the England bowling, but we'll get onto that in a bit.
Of
We'll
course you
switch
do,
to
yeah.
Australia now. Yeah. One thing I will say is, like, I think, like, you know, Travis Head had a ridiculous series. Obviously, he scored over 600 runs in this series. Practically most of them, if not all of them, came when he moved up to open, because he opened in all but one of the innings, and that was obviously the first innings at Optus.
Yeah.
It looks like they've definitely found an option to open there. Whether or not the form that he showed against England, and, you know, let's face it, at times the pretty average bowling that we were putting up here, is going to turn out the same way if he can still bat with the same ferocity and get the same amount of runs or similar amount of runs against other teams in other conditions in other series, remains to be seen. The thing is, like, look, I don't think Weatherall was amazing this series. He had that 150
No.
at the Gabba, but apart from that, didn't do too much else. You know, knowing Cricket Australia, I wouldn't be surprised if by the time they kick off their next Test series, they've got someone else opening with Travis Head, knowing how they like to rotate their openers if they don't immediately hit the ground running. My preference would be just stick with Weatherall, because, you know, at least for a couple more series. Don't just, like, you know, I mean, look, as an England fan, I want Australia to fail, and it would be hilarious if they keep chopping and changing and start falling again. But, you know, the takeaways from their batting point of this series, like, Weatherall still deserves a chance, in my opinion, for at least another few series. Like, look, if he's still struggling to make big scores after then the conversations can begin. But right now, I think it's too early. Marnus, for me, is another big question. I know his fielding is phenomenal. There's no doubt about that, and, you know, he can churn out those medium pace overs, seemingly, right? Who know, he's not really a spinner anymore, even though he took one last night for us in the Big Bash for a bit of spin. In the Test environment, he's more of a medium pacer now, isn't he?
Yeah.
But I think outside of that and the catching and his fielding, the batting is still in question for me, because I don't think he looked amazing this series. Obviously, he didn't get a single century in this series. He got 250s, I believe, as well in this series, again against pretty average bowling, if I might add to that as well. I think any time we bowled at him, like any time he faced us and we were kind of, you know, a bit more on it with our bowling, he did definitely struggle. So I still think he is a big question mark in that batting lineup. I'm not just saying that because I want him to be fully available for the Brisbane Heat next year in the Big Bash,
Of
but
course not. Of course not.
I mean, that is a big talking point, obviously. You know, Cameron Green. Cameron Green is the other big one, of course, as well. I think he was probably one of Australia's worst players throughout the series, for one who played in all 5 of the tests. I just feel the bowling wasn't as good as it has been in the past. The batting just looks dreadful for him at this point in time. So he's another big talking point. And then obviously Alex Carey, you know, he's definitely one of the best wicketkeepers going around right now, and his batting has lifted to another level this series as well. And I know in recent form in general he's been good for them, and I think he showed it this series. But I think in terms of the negative side of it, the two people to come out of this series who I think Australia should still be looking at questions with is Marnus's batting and definitely Cameron Green's spot. Because I think going forward, probably Bo Webster should just replace him in the team. I don't know how you see that one, but yeah.
I'm going to add a third name to that, but before I do, you talked about like the opening dilemma.
Yeah.
I think there's a really easy way you can solve it, and I think it's going to be something that a lot of people will support, and that's throwing Scott Boland in as opener. We saw that at the MCG, and the place went nuts. It was the day before I got there, but you just saw what it meant to the fans. You know, I think it's a logical option. I'm kidding, of course, but you know it was another guy who had a good switch. The other guy that I think they really need to ask the question of is Nathan Lyon. I will get onto the bowling obviously in a bit. I haven't got onto the bowling for either team yet, but I mean, I think with Lyon, it's not really a case of replacing him with he's crap. It's just waiting for him to decide to retire, because it's coming soon, isn't it? Probably. I think it is, but I said the same thing about Uzi Khawaja, and I think the question is not a case of when he's ready. I think it's a case that they just need to give him a bit of a nudge. I mean, look, he's. And I'm going to throw T20 into the reference here. He's been at the Renegades 2 seasons, and how many games has he played?
A big
He's
fat
got zero.
naught. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that sort of goes. He's been a fantastic stalwart for the country, but I just think they need to be looking to what's going to win them test matches from an extended point of
No,
view.
I
And
still think, to be
you know,
honest, like, I know they beat us in Sydney, but I still think Nathan Lyon would have played a huge part in that game had he played. I don't think the issue with Lyon is like his, that he's on the decline at all. I just think Australia's not really offering spin on all its pitches like it used to. Like we saw him at
that's
Adelaide.
also true.
We saw him at Adelaide. He was pretty good at Adelaide. Let's not especially in that second innings, he changed the game really and took it away from us really with his bowling in that second innings. I still think that he's going to play, not until like the next Ashes in Australia. There's no chance, but I reckon he's got a good year or two of him left, depending on how his fitness holds up and stuff like that. Because I could still see him being very handy for them in the subcontinent, really, in those conditions. And I don't know why they would change from that. I don't think really like Nathan Lyon's really. I mean, in terms of the bowling, I think we were all in kind of agreement that coming into this, despite the fact that Cummins was injured, Hazelwood missed the whole series through injury. There were changes bowling lineup. Australia's bowling does genuinely look still strong. Michael Neeser's perfectly more than capable of coming in and filling in a role. Scott Boland, in my opinion, should be playing ahead of Josh Hazelwood from now on, in all honesty. For a number of reasons. Hazelwood's fitness is always concerning. So why would you just play someone that may be better than Boland on his day, but then gets injured after every 3-4 games he plays?
He's proven he's got runs on the board, metaphorically speaking.
I just think, obviously Cummins comes back in, obviously when he's injured, because captain as well. When he's not injured, because captain as well. But you just think going forward, do they even need to, is Hazelwood even needed anymore? I mean, it's like Stark, Boland, Neeser, Cummins is a more than capable bowling attack, or if Neeser's not match fit or not fully on it, you got Brendan Doggett to come in, who I thought looked decent at times in this series when he did play. Less so Jai Richardson. I thought he looked a bit off it in that one test at the MCG, which was offering a lot for bowlers as well. I mean, obviously, you were watching that one firsthand and would have been seeing Richo bowl. Sorry, you're a Renegades fan. Richo is someone else to you.
Brendan Doggett, I'm not too sure. We'll wait and see, because, I mean, if he's available for the test side, great. But if he's not, then the Renegades will surely have him. But I mean, that's a discussion for another day, obviously. But I guess you're right in terms of it's going to depend on conditions and whether Bo Webster, if he continues to be picked, he's that other spin option as well. But look, we'll see. But I guess
well, don't forget, Bo Webster offers medium pace as well. It's not just spin.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
So it's not like. Australia's bowling, I think the big issue is the batting, and it's namely Cameron Green and Marnus Labuschagne for me are the two things. And obviously with Khawaja retiring, if Head is going to take that opening spot, who comes in to bat 5? My thought process is Cricket Australia are just going to play Cameron Green at 5 because they seem to not ever drop him, even though he probably should be at this point.
That's true.
They could easily bring Josh Inglis in, bat him at 5. Bo Webster replaces Green as that all-round option. Yeah, fine, they lose the pace of Green, but I think the batting has been such... The bowling has not been that impressive for him to warrant him staying in the team, and the batting has been very poor from him recently, by and large. So, with that side of things, and obviously, we're talking bowling. Obviously, Mitchell Stark, we'll just touch on. We'll talk about him in a bit later when we talk about our players for each team of this series, because there's he's an obvious choice for one of those things. But I mean, look, Cummins out injured, only played the one test. Hazelwood missed the whole series. I mean, look, I know he kind of faded a little bit towards the end of the series, but he started the series in unbelievable form, and he's. I hate talking up Australians, but he really is one of the best fast bowlers right now going around in Test cricket. There's just no denying that. Yeah. What are the other names you could chuck up there right now? Modern day Test cricket, Bumrah and Rabada, and that's probably about it, right?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Cummins. Let me ask this of you as an English fan. So they bring Cummins back for the Adelaide Test, so obviously which clinches the series. And then he doesn't play, and he'd been injured and came back from injury, right? They play him in Adelaide to clinch the series, and then he's rested for the rest of the series. I guess what's your take on that? I mean, I think it's pretty selfish, really, in terms.
I'm pretty selfish because
well, yes, he's the captain, but really. You know.
Look, I don't.
Yeah.
But like, Cummins is one of the few people I like in this Australia. Not like, but one of the few people I can tolerate in this Australia squad. I've never had an issue with him really, in terms of like compared to the way I hate Steve Smith and all the, like and the shit he's done in the past and stuff like that. But I don't really have that issue with it in the sense that like, look, I get like, he's injured. He's he missed the first test, definitely want to play. And you remember he was saying he could have possibly played at the Gabba, but he didn't want to risk it. Fair enough. But then he was ready to come back in Adelaide. Did injure himself whilst playing, so maybe he could have pulled himself back too soon and then ended up having to miss the last 2 tests again because he was still injured. Like, I don't, like, because I don't put it down to the fact that, like, I still think we would have lost to Adelaide had he played or not. It doesn't really make too much of a difference, because had he not played, Nisa probably would have come in 1 test earlier, and they probably still would have beaten us, because Nisa was very good in the 2 tests that he played, and we know, as a Brisbane Heat fan, I know just how good of a bowler that guy is. So, yeah, I don't know. With the Cummins situation is, like, he came in, he played the series clinching tests. It is what it is, really. I thought for a moment you were actually going to ask me what about the Moore thing. That the actual thing he did is like at the trophy presentation, dressed up in his all whites and lifted the trophy, despite the fact that he'd only captained 1 test of the 5.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a pretty pertinent.
I've got 2 responses to this. One response is because I already told you on Facebook before when you told me about this. Is the fact that I hate Steve Smith so much. I was just like, yeah, well, good on him. Fuck Steve Smith. I don't care that he. Well, I mean, the fact that he even captained 4 of those tests in the first place is a piss take, because my strong views on the fact that since Sandpapergate, the fact that he's actually been allowed to come back and have a leadership role in the same team that he did the Sandpaper thing. I don't care that he's not quite as bad when it comes to that shit anymore. Like you're not like Well, I've got my issues with that, and look, it's being the jokey side of it, like, oh yeah, good on you, Cummins. Excuse me, yawning people. Good on you, Cummins, like coming back and just like taking the trophy away from Smith, even though he captained 4 of the 5 tests. Though to be fair, he did captain the 1 they lost as well, so maybe that's the way Cummins saw it. But no, being serious, I think it's a little bit ridiculous. I know he's the captain, but you don't have to get your fucking whites on and stand there with the team like you were playing a huge part in this series. Go up on the stage by all means, but keep your tracksuit on or whatever it is you're wearing when you're not playing, because it just looks ridiculous when you've been injured and missed all but 1 of the tests and you get up on the stage and, oh yeah, I was a big part of this. You weren't. You bowled well and played well in the 1 test that you were playing and did win, and that was the one that made it 3-0 and gave you the series. I'll give you that, but come on. Smith captained 4 of the 5 tests.
For our English fans that are watching, the words full kit wanker to my mind immediately come to me, because I didn't see the whole presentation. I saw clips and whatnot, and I'm in a couple of WhatsApp groups and saw it there. But yeah, the words full kit wanker, definitely that's what Cummins sort of came across to me for that reason. Like, you've clinched the series and you've done all this, but you haven't captained most of the games, but yet you're taking centre stage in your full whites, right? Yeah. It's a bit ridiculous for mine, but
it does. It is just ridiculous. Look, I think we'll go back to England now, so we can touch on our bowling, which was definitely our weak point this series. I kind of expected it would be difficult. Keep in mind, if you look at our bowling attack by and large the series, Archer, Tongue, Carse, Atkinson, Potts, Jacks. I guess you could chuck Bashir, even though he didn't play a single test. Stokes, obviously. Bethel, to a slightly lesser extent. Like, there's not a lot of experience there in terms of bowling in Australia. In fact, it really is just Ben Stokes with any sort of experience in that bowling lineup of ours. In terms of and Mark Wood, I forgot he played the first test, then got injured, of course.
So it was
really just then. Like, Jofra Archer's never bowled in a test match in Australia. Gus Atkinson hasn't. Matty Potts hasn't. Bryden Carse hasn't. Josh Tongue hasn't. Will Jacks hasn't. Bashir didn't play, but even if he did, he hasn't. Bethel hasn't. So right? I knew it was going to be difficult. Look, when the conditions allowed it, like the first innings at Optus, well, after we got bowled out for 170 or 80 or whatever it was, and then we went and bowled them out for around 132 on the same as the first day. I thought we bowled excellently there. We bowled brilliantly in both innings at the MCG. So there were points where, when the conditions allowed it, we were on it and we bowled really well. But any point in the series where the conditions just weren't quite there for bowling and we had to actually use a bit of nous and, stuff like that to try and get wickets from this Australian attack, which, let's face it, aren't the strongest, as I've already alluded to, this Australian batting lineup. I just felt we missed the mark huge. I mean, you look, there's a couple of innings where it just kind of all fell apart. You got Australia's first innings at the SCG was one of our worst bowling performances in this series, in my opinion. You got the second innings of theirs at Optus, how we just let them romp to the 200 without any sort of challenge. We were just loose with the lines and the lengths, and we just didn't seem to have any idea. At the Gabba, there was a couple of points in that game where we just didn't look on it as a bowling unit, and I think that was our biggest crux of the whole season, the whole series. Is, just as much as we threw away wickets to help Australia into games at times, we also helped them get runs as well with some of the bowling. As I said, I did preface this whole segment by saying, the lack of experience, you kind of expected it to be difficult, but I still think there's just a certain level of, in some games you got to look at it and be like, excuse me, people, I'm yawning. Excuse me, people, I'm quite tired for some reason. When you look at it and you're just like, look, England haven't bowled well, and that's the truth, and that's, you look at the board and the selections. Should we be looking at getting someone in this bowling lineup who offers a bit more control? I like Brydon Cast. Don't get me wrong. He took over 20 wickets in this series, which is brilliant. It's been a long time since an England bowler's managed to do that in Australia. That's for sure. But he's still expensive. He's the type of bowler who's going to come in and bowl every now and then bowl the wicket-taking delivery and have the knack of getting a batsman out from nowhere. But the control is just not in his game. Everyone saw in this series, the frequency at which he was going for over 4 and over. It's not good enough. It's not like they're batting very well against him. It's just he's not bowling well to them. And Josh Tongue, he came in. I think he probably should have played most of the series, in all honesty. I know we went with Wood because we wanted to try him out and because he bowled really well when we were here a couple of years ago. But the interim, I think Mark Wood's pretty much done now, unfortunately. I think these injuries just look like they've just taken it a step too far for him now to fully recover. So, Josh Tongue might going forward in the summer, Archer's definitely in the starting bowling attack of ours. I'd still put Cast there just because of the fact that he can just take wickets, even though he is a bit expensive. Josh Tongue has to be in there because he was one of our best bowlers this series, in my opinion. Gus Atkinson, Gus Atkinson is. I mean, you were watching him bowl there. Obviously, you're going to test to the fact that he bowled really well in both innings, especially that second innings where I think he got the 5 foot right. It was in the second, or I think it was in the second innings there. And Gus Atkinson's fitness is the big concern, but and then Will Jacks, who how often are England going to play a spinner? Is the Shoaib Bashir experiment done? I don't know. There are other spinners out there. Of course, there are. There's Tom Hartley. There's Liam Dawson. There's options out there for England to turn to. Maybe it just looks like we're going to go with the part-time of Will Jacks for the time being. And then if you got Bethel batting at 3, you've got options there. Joe Root can roll his arm over. Of course, he's quite a handy leg spinner at times. In turning conditions, he can be quite handy for us.
And Bethel's he bowled at times in the series as well, and I think he took a wicket in Sydney as well, so he's possibly an option. And but I think from a selection point of view, I'm not sure what your summer over there test series looks like later.
Well, as I said, it's New Zealand and then Pakistan, so 3 tests in each. So that's what I kind of like in the fact that I think that's a good roster of a good schedule of teams for England to play in the summer. Trying to get some confidence and form back into players, and also trying to bring through others and get them in, and get them more used to the test environment. They're not like India and Australia. Excuse me for the yawning, people. They're not like India and Australia. They're like New Zealand, Pakistan. They're not too easy, but they're not too difficult. It's a nice kind of middle of the road kind of way to test us. They're tests that you could easily see us losing. against them, but then at the same time you could see us winning comprehensively against them. So that's what's kind of good about that schedule for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I that's the way I kind of see it right now with the England bowling. Interested to see your thoughts on it as a whole.
Look, I think certainly I couldn't agree more with
And obviously,
Josh Tongue.
sorry, just quickly, like
Yeah.
Ben Stokes as well, like got that 5 for
Yeah.
Optus. I mean, he's always like he's
Yeah.
a machine. Like he'll bowl himself into the ground, and it can be to his
And he did
detriment at times.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But
He
yeah,
did at times, yeah.
but yeah, I still think he carried himself well with the ball this series. Less
Mm.
so with the bat, but with the ball, he was once again quite impressive. So yeah, but anyway, yeah, your thoughts on our bowling, I guess, as a whole.
Well, I'd agree with what you were just saying about Stokes. Yeah, he certainly sort of gave his all for the team to the point where he almost sort of, bowled himself out of the contest at different times and really pushed himself to the limit. But I certainly agree with the fact that they've got to persevere with Josh Tongue, and I think did they make a mistake in not playing him earlier in the series? I mean, obviously not knowing that Archer and then would be injured later in the series, we don't know. But yeah, look, certainly from a I thought Cast was good at times. Really provided something there. Atkinson, did okay. And that's good. Like I said, that's going to be the question in terms of when we get to those home series for you guys against Pakistan and New Zealand. So what those lineups in different conditions will look like. But and from a spin point of view, Jax was serviceable, but I think certainly you've got Bethwell who can bowl some overs. Bashir, do they go with him? There's certainly going to be some questions as time goes on.
Well, I don't expect any, because I say English summer, English conditions normally spin. I mean, occasionally it can come into it. But I think it's more for when we go back to play like an India or Sri Lanka or even Pakistan away, like those teams in the subcontinent.
Yeah.
We can't just not play Bashir, and he barely plays county cricket as it is, and then just bring him in for those series and expect him to just be one of our best bowlers. That's what I'm saying. Like, if we're not going to play Bashir at all, just give him some time away, let him work on his game in the county, and then see what happens in the next year or two. And when we need to bring up players, bring up the more experienced ones with us to those things, like Liam Dawson and Tom Hartley. Tom Hartley got a 7 for the last time we played away in India in one of the tests, so he's not like, he's played for England before and he's all right. So it's not like, I know Bashir also got a 7 for in that same series as well, but England have options there. It's just the selection's got to be better next time we go away from home. It's not, at home's a different thing, right? Because, from test to test you can change the team, but when you go away and you select your squad, which you have to stick with, for the entire series, that's when our selection needs to improve next time we go away. I think now, good time for us to get on to okay, let's just get out of the way first. So what we're going to do is we're each going to pick a batsman and a bowler for each team that we thought were the best of the series, because if we're picking just overall, there's only 2 names are going to be. Admittedly, for Australia, they kind of pick themselves or not. Where the interesting one is going to be is what our picks are for England. So we'll get Australia's out of the way. I mean, I know who my batsman of the series is for Australia, Ben. Do you need to go any more elaborate on who yours is?
Well, I think for his opening performance at the G, it's got to be Scott. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Look, I think from a batting point of view, Travis Head by a country mile really sort of stood up and weathered the.
I mean, over 600 runs, and my word, I know we didn't bowl particularly well at him a lot of the time, and that is a factor. But I mean, you can't 3 centuries, I think, in the series. It's just. He's really come into his own at the ripe old age of 31 now. He's just starting to look like a really accomplished all-formats batsman for Australia. You imagine he's going to be big in their World Cup campaign, most likely opening the batting with Mitchell Marsh there. That's a powerful, explosive opening partnership, of course, in T20 cricket for Australia. He's, he's still hanging around for their one-day stuff as well. He's just become a really good, well-accomplished all-formats player. And, as I said before, there's no way any other batsman can get picked for the batsman of the series for Australia or the batsman of the series for the whole. It is just obviously going to be Travis Head. There's just we could just move on from that, and it's just as easy for the bowlers again. It's it's obvious who I'm picking. picking, and again, I'm guessing it's the same with you, Ben, for your pick for Australia's bowler of the series.
Well, yeah, I was going to go Mitchell Stark for mine. I think just really sort of put games out of reach, really just with some quality bowling and just really unrelenting, and made it really difficult for the English to get a foothold in some of these matches, really. And certainly a guy that the Aussies have been able to rely on for many years now, and you know what you're going to get from him, and certainly it doesn't need too many opportunities to really put a stamp on his performances, really.
Yeah, just like look, he's like a refined wine, just gets better with age, really, doesn't he? Because he just year by year as he gets older, he just looks like he's better and better and better. I think he's 36 now or 37, if I'm correct, and probably looks at the best form of his Test career that he's ever been for Australia, really. I know he kind of tailed off as the series went on. Obviously, after the first two games, there was talk he was going to break Shane Warne's 40 wickets Australian Ashes record that he got in 2005 in England. That didn't end up happening, of course. But, I mean, still absolutely phenomenal performances regardless from Mitchell Stark in this series nonetheless, because the way, how many times have you seen it, gets a new ball in his hand, gets that shiny new rock, picks up a wicket in his first spell or even first over, we
saw it multiple times in this.
Yeah, I mean, he did it to Crawley twice at Optus, right? And I know saying you dismiss Zach Crawley isn't nearly as impressive as saying, you dismiss Rahul Dravid twice in the same test in the first over, but the point still stands, right? He's just like one of those, the term strike bowler, he is literally like the perfect embodiment of that term, really, especially with the new ball. Look, the Australian picks are quite easy and simple out the way. It's in England where it's going to get a little more divisive, I guess, and a little more interesting whether we agree or not on our picks. Being the Englishman, I'll go first for my pick for England's batsman this series. Look, obviously there's not a lot of choices out there. Is it fair to pick Bethel considering he only played 2 tests, even though he did look like one of our best batsmen in the series in those 2 tests? Do I go with the classic old Joe Root because he finally got that monkey off his back with the century, and then obviously got the other one in Australia? But in all fairness, aside from that and maybe 1 or 2 other innings, he struggled a bit. Or do I go Harry Brook, who didn't score a century, had a couple of 50s, but largely looked pretty solid when he came in? And I think I am going to go with Brook. I know it's a bit harsh on Root. I'm going to say Joe Root has finally done it. Obviously, he's got the century off his back in Australia, which means he doesn't have that lingering over him anymore. He does still have England not winning a series in Australia since he's been playing for the team hanging over his back. But look, if he pushes on for the next Ashes series over here, which he probably will, then, who knows? He could chalk that one off before he retires as well. And then if he goes past Sachin Tendulkar at that point, he's practically completed cricket then, hasn't he? Because he's won the One Day World Cup. Maybe if England get to a final of a Test Championship and he wins that before he retires, he could say he completes cricket. But yeah, take nothing away from Root, he's fantastic. But yeah, my pick from our batsman of the series is actually going to be Harry Brook. Just because I think largely through most of his innings, even though he threw his wicket away a few times, largely through most of the innings, I just thought he looked like the Harry Brook we expect, basically, and still played that way, and still, had he had a bit more support from the lower order behind him, maybe his innings would have ended up becoming a little more substantial than they ended up being. But I think he missed his chance to get the century in the SCG when he came in on day 2 with that partnership with Joe Root, and then got out a bit cheaply in the first hour of play that day. But largely overall my pick's Harry Brook, just because of he still went about playing in his relatively natural kind of way of playing and still looked impressive through most of the tests and most of the time he was playing. So yeah, my pick for our batsman of the series is Harry Brook though. But who's yours, Ben?
I'm going to go with Jacob Bethel. Like you said,
okay.
It's great
you only played 2 tests, but yeah, okay.
Well, I like to think outside the box, mate, as you know. But look, great for Joe Root to get that monkey off his back. But really, I think Bethel's been a breath of fresh air for you guys. gave you guys a bit of a boost in a series that obviously was over reasonably quickly. With still a couple of tests to play, yeah, I think for mine, he played some really good shots and was able to really make an impact in a series that sort of probably didn't have much sort of left in it. So he's my pick. I could have gone with Root for obvious reasons, but it's one of the reasons in my own life why I don't follow say a Premier League side, for example. I like to sort of move away from that sort of
Fair enough, yeah.
obvious option. So it's Bethel for mine, and obviously he was at the Renegades I think last season, so I've got that sort of foot in the camp as well.
Fair enough, yeah. And on for the England bowlers, the pick of the series. I mean, look, for me, it's really just a pick between two. I know Archer only played 3 tests. I thought he bowled right at Optus, but not too much. Best didn't do amazing at Adelaide Oval, the Gabba. For me, it's basically between Cast and Tongue. Cast obviously played all 5 tests. Tongue only played the last 3. It just for me, like, Cast is a bit. Cast, he took over 20 wickets, as I said. It hasn't been done by an England bowler over here for a while. But the other thing I look at Cast is, how many of those innings did he allow Australian batsmen to build scores because his accuracy just wasn't on point. You could also argue the fact he wasn't being supported, whereas Josh Tongue came in and, just like he did in the English summer against India before, and he came in midway through that series and, was one of our best bowlers in that series as well. It's hard to look past his ability to clean up the tail, like an ability like we haven't had in years. Even Broad and Anderson didn't really fit that bill, and we all know how good those two were for us. I've got to make a decision here between like someone who came in explosively and I think is really impressive for the long run, or someone who's just a wicket-taking machine, despite the fact that he's expensive beyond belief. Who had more of an impact on it? I'll probably say Josh Tongue, because yes, Bryden Cast took 22 wickets, 23 actually, I think, can't remember, something like that, 23 or 24 or 22, but it's over 20. And yes, but I think Josh Tongue made the bigger impact. He won us the game essentially with his bowling at the MCG, of course, so you can't ignore that. And he bowled all right at Adelaide. He bowled well in Sydney as well. I think, for me, it's Josh Tongue. Nice skiddy action, good kind of just great for bowling at the tail, basically. He wiped through India's tail on a couple of occasions in the summer, and he sort of did the same thing, not all the time, but sort of over here as well. So my pick is Josh Tongue. What about you?
Mate, I've gone a bit left field for this, but there's method to my madness. I've gone with the captain. I've gone with Stokes.
It's not that left field. I mean, if you remember in our predictions, I said he was going to be our leading wicket taker this series. So
I guess it's not. But Ben Stokes is my pick, and I've just sort of had a bit of a look through his series, and he was consistent. Really, he took. There were a couple of innings.
I mean, look, that 5 for Optus was that 5 for Optus was brilliant from him. Like the way he bowled in that spell, was just so good.
Yep. He was able to consistently take wickets in most of the innings, and just really quality bowling. Like we said, at Optus he was brilliant. Despite the end result, Mitch Starc was a bit better, but I think he's my certainly my pick for English bowler of the series.
Yeah, fair enough. We're not going to do a player of the series or bowler or batsman because it's just too obvious. There's just no other point. There's just no point. For anyone who is interested, it's obviously Travis Head for batsman, Mitchell Starc for bowler. We're not denying any of that. But that will wrap up our review, I think, of it. We'll do a shorter one for you guys today after we did almost an hour and a half on the review on Monday, if any of you have checked that out since it's gone up. So the Ashes is over. Obviously, that's far from the cricket calendar being over. Obviously, the Big Bash is coming towards the finals. Brisbane Heat got a fucking phenomenal win last night against the Canes. Don't know if you saw that final over from Zaman Khan, Ben, but my word.
I did see it, yeah.
Is that not one of the greatest final overs you've seen a bowler bowl in Big Bash history?
It's pretty impressive. I mean, and just as I guess as a footnote to what we've just talked about, guys, feel free to comment with your, your picks for if you've got any sort of anything different to us. We'd love to hear it. But Big Bash coming to a close. The Renegades are playing their last home game tonight. I'm not going to be going, but I've given up on them after they did a royal choke job against the Thunder in a rain affected game. They're done for mine. Hopefully they won't beat the Scorchers tonight, and that's just another.
You say that you beat them at Optus literally like last week or whenever
Yeah,
it was.
but,
Like,
playing at Marvel clearly hasn't worked for us this year, so I'm sort of got one eye on footy season, so I hope they finish off strongly, but I just don't see it. But
but we've still got a chance.
Yeah.
We've just got to beat the Sixers in our final game, so like that gets us into the final. So at least it's in our hands. That's the thing. Like at least it's in our
It's
hands.
still in our hands as well, but I just don't have enough faith in us to get it done because
it's not in your hands.
Can't be trusted.
It's definitely not in your hands because you need
We've
teams to
proven we
lose
can't
and
be
you
trusted,
need like
yeah. And no Ollie Peak as well. He's off at the end of the 19s World Cup. But yeah, we've got a fair bit of content sort of coming up. We've got the T20 World Cup.
I mean, yeah, that's the big thing, of course.
After this,
I mean, it's about a month or so away, or just over, I think, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so
and
yeah, we're
gonna
have
be on at great times as well, which is terrific for us. Yeah.
So yeah, we might even try and do a couple of watch-alongs that because obviously, as I said before, we have setups that work for both of us going forward, people. So like, we can definitely try and get a couple of watch-alongs, and best believe we're not going to do like India, Pakistan watch-along or South Africa, New Zealand, or the big games. No. We'll do fucking like Nepal versus Italy or something like that.
You bet you we will. Yep.
We'll definitely do the more niche ones.
Canada versus I don't know who they've got. I've forgotten, but that's something that we'll obviously talk about in our preview.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's not all just about the big countries. There's Italy for the first time.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be great for them. And there's Ben Menenti and guys Joe Burns. It's going to be great for that nation. But look, there's going to be plenty in that preview to discuss. But yeah, Big Bash finals, as we said, are coming up as well pretty soon, and it's going to be interesting to see. Personally, from my point of view, I hope the Stars don't take it out for obvious reasons.
Yeah, they've never won it before. The only team to have not won it.
Yeah, and they can go another year without winning it. So I'm sure, that's just my 2 cents on that anyway.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, look, and before we wrap up, we'll quickly touch on the fact that there has been some Bundesliga action midweek. Obviously, we won't do a full review of it because it's just too much. Really, you guys don't realise we've got to watch all the highlights, make the notes. It is quite time consuming, so we'll stick it to the weekend. But we will quickly touch on what's happened, just in case anyone's watching who's interested in it. Because we are now officially at the halfway point, of course, of the Bundesliga season. With the Rückrunde, as it's known, starting this weekend, in fact. Bayern Leipzig is going to be a huge game, in fact, but we are breaking all sorts of records. We'll just quickly touch on it. 47 points from the first half of the season is a record. We tied for points with Pep Guardiola's 13-14 Bayern side, but we've beaten the record technically because of our ridiculous goal difference after 17 games, of... Is it plus 50? Yeah, plus 53, I think it is. Yeah, I think it's a goal difference of plus 53 after 17 games, which is just utterly ridiculous. We beat Köln 3-1 for anyone who's interested. They actually took the lead, but then we just kind of stormed back into it in the way we usually do. I mean, they did make it a bit difficult. It wasn't just a Wolfsburg 8-1 storm back into it. It was. They definitely gave a good showing of themselves, but yeah, once again, just too much quality, and Leonard Carl, what can I say, gets his 4th league goal of the season. They made a really well taken finish as well. Like, this team are just ridiculous, really, and I hope we can continue it going because it is going to be a tough game away at Leipzig this weekend. But we are now 11 points clear of Dortmund as well, so. Yeah, I mean, look, in other news for Bundesliga, of course, Ben's team, we didn't actually get a chance to review St. Pauli on Monday because they didn't play a game on the weekend. That was postponed. You did play against Wolfsburg. What were your thoughts on it, quickly?
Not great because one of the other results I was going to mention is Mainz, who finally broke through for a win against relegation rivals Heidenheim. Yeah, and that was a fantastic win from them. I just saw the Hamburg versus Leverkusen game was actually postponed, so there are another 10 that's sort of going to be in amongst that group. But really, no Jackson Irvine for St. Pauli. Cars was on the bench, so
I saw that. Is he injured again, or has he just been rested?
Irvine?
Yeah.
I think I saw. My German's not great, but I think there is some sort of little issue with him. But I'm hoping to find out more through my trawling of the socials. But yeah, look, I mean, in terms of the game, look better. And I really hope that's going to be indicative of our second half form because it needs to be better if we're going to avoid the drop. Look, if we get to the end of the season and we're in that playoff spot,
I will say second
I won't
half
be
better.
disappointed.
I
Yeah.
thought after you went 1-0 down, like
Yeah.
I think you were pretty poor until you equalised. Because for a long period, for a while in that first half, I was watching like the 25-minute highlights of your game just to get an idea of it, just for the sake of it. I just kind of felt like, you went a bit negative after going behind, and it was very kind of backs to the wall defensive when you probably should have been trying to get a little more. And like, keep in mind, this is a team that just had 8 put past them as well, and I think you were kind of showing maybe a little too respect to them at times, too much respect. I know you did manage to counter on them, and it was a very well taken finish from Smith as well, to be fair. For that equaliser. And yeah, as you said, second half you were much better. It was a much more even contest second half, but I thought first half, after falling behind, you were very, very negative. And that, hopefully for your sake in it going the second half of the season, that's not a kind of thing, because that could hurt you. I mean, it did ultimately, because you lost this game, of course.
And I mean, look, I was just going to say, looking at the fixtures, we've got Dortmund on the weekend, then that rescheduled game against Leipzig, and the Hamburg derby's in there as well, and we've also got Augsburg, so there's certainly winnable games. But I certainly think
you got Leipzig, sorry. So you got Dortmund and Leipzig in back-to-back games.
Yeah, that rescheduled game is on, I think, the week after next, the 27th. So it's in a couple of weeks, but we've got some games that we can win, and some games that are going to be really tough. And I think it's now you said the second half of the season is officially sort of upon us. We need to start getting points, and there's no other way to say it.
I mean, it's very close. With that Mainz win, I'm pretty sure now all of you are on 12 points now at the bottom, right?
Yeah, that's right. Bit of a strange occurrence, but we have to start picking up points. I don't care where they come from. I don't care how they come. It's something I'll talk about more on Monday in our review. But with that result, we're lucky that the teams around us are on it's separated by goal difference, and Augsburg aren't travelling well. Wolfsburg is sort of still there for the picking. But
I mean, that was the thing about this game. Like, they just lost 8-1. They weren't in great form themselves. Like, they were down there themselves, but that win has really boosted them up. It has. I just think, I mean, look, when you touch on the penalty, I mean, there's no denying it's not, like, it's a clear penalty, of course. Like, he's a bit, you could argue he's a bit unlucky, you could argue he's a bit silly, because why is your arm kind of out from your body in that position when you're in the box, maybe, but, like... I think, in terms of a performance, like as you said, second half's way better. I thought at times you were actually a bit wasteful. I thought Fujita wasted a couple of shots, really, which should have been...
missed an absolutely easy opportunity to level, but, I mean, looking at another game here, Hoffenheim, who we love on this podcast, they beat...
we'll touch on that. I mean, fucking hell, that was phenomenal. Like, they absolutely blew the Gladbach. I remember Gladbach won 4-0. On the weekend prior themselves, don't forget. They beat Augsburg 4-0. And fucking phenomenal. The hat trick from Kramaric, that goal to get the hat trick, the finish from him. I mean, we could compare, I was just talking about goals. Like, did you see Gnabry's goal for us?
I didn't. But...
Oh, okay. It's similar to Cranbridge's. Cranbridge's were ridiculous. Like the control and the kind of finesse and placement on that chipped finish was just, he's. Hoffenheim are just some team when they get going. I mean, Stuttgart, of course, got themselves another win since the resumption of the winter break. Got another 3 goals in that. Frankfurt conceded 3 goals 2 games in a row. Funny that doesn't change. They don't change at all, do they? I can't wait till all I say is I can't wait till we play Frankfurt, because if they're shipping 3 against other teams, if they're conceding 3 to... I mean, Stuttgart are good, Dortmund are good, fair enough, right? I mean, if we put 8 past Wolfsburg, are we going to score about 15 or 16 against this Frankfurt side?
And it shows, I mean, it's 3-2, but it shows that Stuttgart are continuing on their good form, and I guess they'll want to use as a bit of a boost going into the second half of the season. But looking forward to the weekend's games, back on so that weekend track.
We've got some big A-League games
as well.
Big A-League games as well, of course. You guys are playing Auckland on tomorrow night, essentially, which you won't be able to get to, because you did say you got other plans, birthday party or something, don't you, for a friend?
Well, I'll be enjoying my bowl of pasta or whatever it is I decide to have tomorrow night. While hopefully City not losing, but we'll see. But there's going to be some interesting games, and we're looking forward to covering that again on our usual Monday wrap up.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we'll probably leave it there for you guys. I hope you enjoyed our Ashes review. We'll be back, of course, on Monday with the review of the next round of fixtures. I mean, that Bayern Leipzig game's huge. If we're already 11 points clear. If you can do us a solid and take more points off Dortmund, and then if we can just go and beat Leipzig, which won't be easy. Of course, it is going to be a tough game away at Leipzig. But if we can go beat them away, and if you can do us a solid and take points off Dortmund again this season, I mean, it's the time.
We have to start getting points, and like I said, I don't care who or where they come from. That's just something we need to start doing, and if it's against Dortmund away, so be it.
Yeah, well, you would take that 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll leave that here with you. We'll leave this here for you guys, and we'll leave it here, and we'll see you guys on Monday. So yeah, peace out, take care, and we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.
Take care, guys.